Bullshit.
Let's pretend for a moment we've entered a parallel universe, free of bullshit marketing and full of bold solutions. That's what the No Bullshit Marketing podcast is all about. I'm Dave Mastovich, your host. Our guest today is Mark Marmo of Deep Well Services, and our Sights and Sounds of Marketing focuses on all apologies and agents Mulder and Scully. But first, let's cut the bullshit. No one sets out to be a bullshit marketer, yet it happens a lot. We learn about winning and losing at an early age. Our first experiences of both are often through sports as a fan, casual observer, or player. Our early teachers and coaches influence our views on leadership, management, and communication. Everybody seems to have their own opinion on what makes a good coach. Some level of expertise is an obvious prerequisite. Time management is crucial because coaches have a limited amount of time with their players. Motivational skills are important to coax the most out of different team members. Leadership and accepting responsibility are other necessary traits. Yet the area where most coaches fall short from youth sports to high school, college, and even the professional ranks is the lack of consistent, effective communication. Coaches have to reach and influence multiple audiences. High school and college coaches, for example, need to target parents, media, alumni, students, players, and businesses. Average coaches typically ignore or neglect a few audiences, while successful coaches focus on understanding and reaching each group. Coaches also often expect their target audiences to understand their message the first time. That's unrealistic. Don't assume everyone heard or understood. Communicate clearly, early, and often. Tell target audiences your message. Tell them again. Then tell them a few more times. Coaches in sports and the workplace are hugely influential. They can make a positive long-term impact. Winning is certainly important, otherwise why keep score at all? But ongoing respectful communication tailored to each target audience is also necessary for true success. Our guest today is Mark Marmo, president of Deep Well Services, an oil-field service company furnishing service rigs with rig assist and standalone snubbing units to help facilitate the completion of Marcellus and Utica wells. He's led multiple companies through successful growth and expansion. Mark, welcome to the show and tell us more about your background, your career path.
Thanks, Dave. Background originally is in a finance and accounting background. I'm actually probably the world's worst accountant. Came out of school and really went right to a crane company and spent the majority of my career there, where I worked with mainly in the field, learned operations more so over the accounting side of things, and was able to get a mix of both accounting, finance, and the operations side, where really my strengths lie on the operational side of the business. From there, we grew Maxim Crane to $100 million it was a $450 million company by the time I left there. We were owned by Bain Capital, had bought 20 companies at that time and integrated all the companies. So really my whole background, where I learned the majority of my what I have today was at Maxim Crane. From there, went on and wanted to get into the oil field, learned oil and gas, wanted to stay in the Pittsburgh area. So went and started working at Talisman Energy, learned the upstream side of the business and oil and gas, learned the whole economic, what makes wells economic, what makes these E&Ps economic, and then was approached by Three Rivers Capital to become the CFO originally of Deep Well Services here 3.5 years ago. And then it's really all from there. It's worked about 5-6 months here. Three Rivers made some changes, put me in as originally the interim president, and then from there made me the CEO. And we've grown the business since 12, revenue-wise, about 268% through 2014, and also having another very good year this year.
Mark, there's a whole lot of stuff there that I have to touch on, because the reason I was excited about talking to you today and having you as a guest is I see so many leadership accomplishments, and with leadership, communication is so critical. And this No Bullshit Marketing podcast is really about communication, leadership, marketing, reaching and influencing target audiences. So let's take your first position. I liked how you said when you took that job, finance background, but you quickly learned operations. Tell our audience how important that is to a leader to go beyond their own scope of expertise.
Well, again, if you want to, I believe this, if you want to be a good office employee, an accountant, if you want to be, anybody on the administrative side, you have to learn the operations of a company. You can't account for things you don't know. Therefore, what I learned really my first couple weeks at the company, on the weekends, they made me go and work on the cranes as an oiler. It's a laborer, in short. But you get an appreciation for what the men go through on the units. You get an appreciation with the customers, their demands, and it makes you a better accountant inside when you're sitting in that office at that desk.
Also, growing the one company, I think you said from 100 million to 450 million, and now Deepwell Services at 268% growth. Talk about how you led and others at your teams led that growth and how you communicated to get that growth to happen.
I'll touch base here on the Deepwell side. It's because, I've been a part of every facet of it here. Really it's first and foremost, it's the people. You have to surround yourself with talented people. In most cases, people that are even more talented than you. You have to be able to lead those people, communicate to those people, and organize. If you have the talent, you have the organization, you have the communication skills, it's really not that hard of a thing to do. You understand your customer, what the customer needs, and you plan, you strategically align your company to around helping the customer succeed. And really, that's in short. That's what. That's really been the success behind this. It's been great people, best technology and equipment, and finding out what economically drives your customer to success.
So that's a no BS approach, which flows really nicely into our next segment, Mark, which is the That's BS segment. So we've all seen it, or I jokingly say maybe we smelled it, bullshit in the workplace. Give me an example from the past 5 years when you just had to say, that's BS. It could be a company culture, questionable leadership, poor work ethic, a time when you just had to say, that's BS.
I think the biggest example is just recently. The commodity markets, oil and gas, are down over 50%, especially on the oil side of things. We value our company safety. It's a safety first, one team, one family. That's our passion at this company. We do not see that with some of the customers that we have. You walk into their office, they'll have all the signs everywhere, safety first, we live safety, we're this, we're that, safety-wise. The first thing you sit down at the table, they want to talk, what price can you give me? They don't want to talk about, hey, how safely or what value do you bring safety? What kind of culture do you bring to our business or our company? It's hey, give us a price cut. That has been the biggest bullshit comments, experience, example that I've lived through, and it's really been in the last year.
So talk through maybe that example or another one where you had like your biggest learning experience where maybe you personally look back on your career and go, that particular time I was a BS communicator, or I was a tough boss, a difficult employee, or maybe I was a BS marketer in how I communicated to the team, or maybe just your communication wasn't what it needed to be. Looking back, when do you think you might have been guilty of some BS?
When I worked at Talisman, coming up through Maxim, coming up through the financial side of things, and working on the in the operational side, you always thought safety was really all it is it's just being politically correct. It's It's just money spent on something. When I went to Talisman, they made us all sit through a class. It was called Behavioral-Based Safety, BBS, 2-day class. And it's really then when I woke up to how important safety was in the workplace and how important safety is in general in your life. Would you leave a ladder standing as you walked out into your garage in the way of the door? Of course not. That's behavioral-based safety. You're going to move that. You're going to keep your area clean. You're going to keep it organized. And it's really when I woke up to how important safety was. It was. I can remember the day and where I was sitting in that office and how it hit me. And from that point on, it's just the BBS has been the way. When I'm working out in my yard, I think through things, what could go wrong here, and then we tried to instill that in our culture here at Deep Well Services. We have BBS training. We live BBS every day, and that's really when I woke up.
That's a good example of turning something that was BS into a learning experience, I should say. One of the things I've learned over the years is that marketing is about clearly defining your target markets, finding out what they want, developing it if you don't already have it, giving it to them when and where they want it at a price they're willing to pay, and then telling them about it again and again. Unfortunately, many people get hung up on that last part, the telling them about it again and again. But as marketers, we need to start with clearly defined target audiences. Then we have to ask those target audiences what they want and listen. Develop it and give it to them when and where they want it at a price they're willing to pay. Then the telling them about it can be the fun part. So Mark, with that being my definition of marketing, think back to what has been your most amazing moment in your experience with marketing, messaging, or communications. What's your biggest marketing or messaging success?
It was the start of really the marketing that we did with Mass Solutions. When I first brought you guys in, I thought marketing was nothing but advertising on a billboard. I was totally, uneducated in the whole what marketing is, understanding your customers in that market, what drives that market, what needs to be done to attract, to get your name out there, your brand identity, both internally and externally. That's really, I think the start of the biggest success, and really the results of that. We're in a down market. As I said, commodity prices are way down. Most of our competition's down 20, 30% from last year. Each quarter goes by, they're in the negatives, even on earnings. Deep Well Services, a little company, as it is through 7 months is up 57% revenue-wise and 63% profit-wise. And really the big success there, along with our crews, our equipment, has been really our marketing plan, our go-to-market strategy, and getting the name out there, people noticing us. We get calls from all over the place now because of articles that companies see on us, or they see newspaper or stuff on LinkedIn. It's been that whole process that we started about a little over a year and a half ago with Mass Solutions has been our biggest success to date.
Mark, the reason that I wanted to bring that up with you was because how leadership plays such a role in that, with you and your ownership group having the wherewithal basically to say, okay, we don't necessarily know everything about marketing, we're not sure, but you make a compelling case, let's go ahead, try the process. And what happened, why this works so well, is when you work together with someone, we came up with a number of recommendations, and some of them you said, I don't agree with that one. Another one you said, I like that, let's put that on the wish list for 2-3 years out. Then 3, 4, 5 of the recommendations you said, let's do it. And then you turned our team loose and we worked with your team. And I think that, touch on that a little bit, because to me, that's what happens in any field. Whenever you're bringing someone in, because we have to bring accounting experts and finance experts in to help with mass solutions. And if I don't listen to them, then I'm a fool. So talk about that, because I think leadership drives the success of partnerships.
Yeah, again, as I said, Dave, I didn't understand marketing. And when you brought the roadmap to Deepwell, and we went through each line item, and I read through them, and I was like, I guess I can try this, or I'll do this. I just don't see where all this stuff comes into play. Where I really started seeing it was when you guys sat down and you did the customer survey. And that's when it hit me, that what marketing is. Going out to what does the customer think of Deepwell? What does the customer know about Deepwell? And how can Deepwell help that customer? And that survey that you guys did was really the thing that then just started the light going. And from there, you start to understand it's your brand identity. What's on your website? How do you change your website around? What do you do with LinkedIn? How do you use Facebook? How do you use social media? And really from there, it's been the process. It's been slow. It's been methodical, but we're not anywhere near where we need to be. But we are definitely better than the competition out there because of what we've learned.
Mark, I want to move into this next part because it ties back to that, and you've already touched on a little bit, I think, but I talk a lot about asking what's the big idea, and you know that we challenged you and your team at the very first meeting with my team and your team together. I start off with what's the big idea. When it comes to messaging, we have to understand both our why or reason for being and our customers' why or reason for buying. We then need to crystallize that into one big idea, one memorable message or theme that makes an emotional impact on our target audiences. So for you and Deepwell Services, what's the big idea?
Our big idea was the internal brand, the identity there, and it was developing our culture. It was defining who we wanted to be, and it's all built around what we call the Great 8. It's our 8 core values. It's what our people live each and every day. It's what we instill in everybody. And it's what we take out to the customers. And if we're doing the Great 8, these daily core values, we are helping our customers succeed. We are ensuring that our guys are safe, and we are ensuring that we're going to execute on the pad. We did that. We started really putting that in November of last year, and it's been a big game changer for us, especially with some of what we call our tier 1 customers. These are the customers that have the growth plans that we have relationships with from the C-level down to the field. These are the customers that value what we bring to the table. These are the customers that have the same values that we do. Being able to communicate our Grade 8 to these customers has made us almost, we've become partners. We share values, we share meetings, we share learnings with these guys, and it's really made us to be the top tier of our competition out there. We have Deepwell Services competes against companies like Halliburton, Schlumberger, Archer Daniels. These are the big billion-dollar companies that have the big market caps. We're the smallest of the small, but we're treating a small company like we're one of those big market cap companies, but we don't put stuff down on paper like what I view a lot of these companies doing just to feel good. We actually live it, and the culture and that whole brand, the identity of our brand inside the company has really shifted us to be the success that we've been through, so far this year.
Talking with Mark Marmo, the president and CEO of Deepwell Services. Mark, there's a story you told me about you getting FaceTime in a meeting, pretty much a sales call with a very large potential client, and you brought up the whole safety and the grade 8. And you said, I want you to talk a little bit about them, because you said that it really opened their eyes when you were saying, this is what we're all about, because they're so used to people coming and trying to please them and tell them they can do everything for them and tell them we have the lowest price. And you started off saying, we got this grade 8 and it's all around safety. Talk about that meeting or other ones where that particular client from a big company went, I haven't heard it like that before.
Yeah, well, we were sitting in front of the at the time, the guy was the COO of the gas division of a big local E&P here in Pittsburgh. We were sitting with, I think, 15 key people on the gas side of this company, and they called us in on 2 days' notice. The big thing, the biggest compliment they gave us in that meeting is, look, we called you in here. You did not have any time to prepare. It's evident of what you guys talk about around your culture, your grade 8, that you guys actually do live this. And we want to be a tier 1 customer of yours. We would actually like to take your grade 8, send it over to us, and we want to do an example. We want to build that kind of culture in our company. So this was Deep Well Services. At the time we have about 130 employees going to a $1 billion company, and actually ideas that we've had through our internal branding, they wanted to adopt. And that's, again, as I said earlier, that's what's making us successful as a company in this very, very tough pricing environment.
Deep Well Services grade 8. Now that's a big idea. Pick a tool or tip you'd offer, Mark, that will help our audience tell their story, craft their message, or communicate to internal and external target audiences. It could be a tool like using Google Trends to generate content ideas. It could be your favorite book, blog, or productivity resource, or a tip on how our listeners might approach their career. Whatever you think might help the audience.
I think internally in the company, to get everybody on the same page, it's hard to do. It's hard to, just one person being able to spread that message. What we've done as a company, and I believe it's been a huge benefit for us. 3 days a week, 1:30 in the afternoon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have a company-wide operations call. From that, everybody is emailed an agenda for the call. And we go through the safety items first and foremost. We start the call off that way. Then we go through any equipment issues or updates that we're having, and then we go through the customer schedule. And everybody participates. So safety starts it off. The dispatch ops guys then come in and review what's going on. We have all the accounting people, the administration, also on that call for them to hear. And then we go into the schedule. And everything's viewed on a projector. And everybody can call it up on their laptop if they're in the field. And we're all looking at the same stuff. We're looking at the agenda. We're looking at the schedule. And any major issues or updates that need to be happening. And we didn't do that our first year, maybe year and a half at the company, and we were having a real hard time getting everybody on the same page. And one of our guys just came to me and said, hey, we used to do this at another company. It worked, and we've been doing it ever since, and it's really helped us get on the same page.
What I like about it is it's consistent. The entire company knows that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this is going to happen. That's a heck of a tip or tool for our audience. So, Mr. Marmo, it's time for you to keep calm and hit the bullseye. I'll ask you to choose between 2 marketing or messaging classics. Tell me which one you like more, but you only have a few seconds to choose and hit the bullseye. The Aflac duck or Geico's gecko?
The duck.
Doritos for the bold or Lay's bet you can't eat just one?
Doritos.
Nice. Bill Gates or Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs.
I'm loving it, or have it your way.
I'm loving it.
Michael Jordan or LeBron James.
Got to go with Michael Jordan.
Don't leave home without it, or priceless.
Don't leave home without it.
The Beatles or the Rolling Stones.
Beatles.
The Old Spice guy or the most interesting man in the world.
Most interesting man in the world.
Finger licking good or think outside the bun.
Finger looking good.
Wow, let's take a couple of those. So, finger licking good, think outside the bun, both non-burger fast food places, and you're the fried chicken guy, right?
Yes.
So, on the most interesting man in the world and the Old Spice guy, why I put those in your hit the bullseye, Mark, is because they take different approaches. The Old Spice guy is kind of crazy and in your face, and the most interesting man in the world is a little bit cryptic. So it's showing you that with messaging, if you catch someone's attention and make an emotional impact, you'll be memorable, and I think both of those are memorable. Who'd you pick on the Beatles or Rolling Stones? You went the Beatles, didn't you?
Beatles.
Yeah, all right. So go back to Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. You've got both brilliant, both hugely successful. You went with Jobs. Want to give a reason why?
I think the iPhone and the iPad is just it's touched everybody. I mean, you look at the news that people are overseas or whatever, they have an iPhone. So it's been it's changed. I think it's been an item that's changed the world.
Awesome. Now, full disclosure, I always give full disclosure about things on my own. It's both Mark and I are basketball nuts, basketball players, played high school and college. Mark was a fantastic player. You know, Mark, when I talk to the guys I coach now, ranging from anywhere from the class this year is 18 all the way down to about 12, so I coach different grades and ages, and it kind of cracks me up when they try to make the LeBron James argument, and they say that it's just I'm picking him because I'm older, and there's just such a difference with Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And they're both great, and LeBron is awesome. I'm not a LeBron hater. I love him as a person. I think he's a fantastic person. I think he's done great things. I think he's learned from a couple of his messaging mistakes with the when he said that he was taking his talents to South Beach. But Michael Jordan, 2 levels as a messaging person, probably still the most recognizable man on the planet. But as a basketball player, talk about how he just had that extra gear.
Well, it all comes down to one thing. He won all the time. LeBron hasn't won every time. And that's where it really is with me. He never lost.
My middle son, good basketball player, would argue with me vociferously during the playoffs this year, and I finally said to him, I'm just going to pick a random game. Not the flu game, not the 63-point game against the Celtics. I'm going to pick a random game, and you and I are going to watch it. By the third quarter, he said, I get it. It's just, he's a notch above. So let's move on to the sights and sounds of marketing. This episode, Sights and Sounds of Marketing, starts with the song All Apologies by Nirvana. When we aren't happy with the situation, we rationalize why we maintain the status quo. We say things like, I just need to gut it out for a while to see what happens. Or, that's just how they do things here. We say these things instead of exploring possibilities. We take the easy way out, but yet remain frustrated. The song says, what else should I be? All apologies. We make excuses and express regret to others who might listen and even nod their heads, but can they really improve the situation? Nirvana's song says, what else could I say? What else could I write? I don't have the right. We think we aren't good enough or don't deserve the chance to change things. I wish I was like you, easily amused. We try to fit in or become envious of others who appear to handle their frustrations better. We're more afraid of what we might lose, our job, the status quo, our identity, than what we could gain, better responsibilities, a promotion, more value from our work, personal growth. We prefer avoiding losses at the expense of acquiring gains. Multiple problems arise when the pain of losing is more powerful than the pleasure of moving ahead. Your value to the company becomes less. Your self-esteem and productivity decline. Others might take advantage of you once they realize loss aversion clouds your decision-making. Take stock of your situation. How often do you do what you think others want? When's the last time you took a risk? If loss aversion is hindering your performance, do something about it. You have more say in who you are and what you do than you think. The song closes with, all in all is all we are. Mark, what do you think about how we often rationalize that the status quo is okay?
I think that's why we're in the predicament we are as a country. But the best place is, I hear it all the time here at the company. It's the oil field. That's how it goes. And my reply to everybody that says that is, well, we're different. We're not old oil field. We're new. We're here to be different. We're here to make our customers better, and we're going to be different. We're not going to operate like the old oil field companies. We're not derelicts. We're professionals, and we're going to be viewed it that way. So I guess that's the best example I could give.
And I agree wholeheartedly. Now, the Sights and Sounds of Marketing talks about one song that kicks us off, but then goes into other memorable messages. And those other ones from 1993 were Got Milk, probably one of the most memorable ad campaigns ever. We heard The Truth Is Out There when Fox introduced a new series called The X-Files. The movie Jurassic Park was released and took computer-generated imagery and animated visual effects to a whole new level. And AT&T's You Will campaign predicted a whole lot of technological breakthroughs that are now commonplace. So, Mark, let's go through each one. What are your thoughts on the Got Milk campaign? And remember, from back when it came out, what are your thoughts?
It was genius. From it Got Milk, 2 words, and everybody knows it. You see it on T-shirts. You just remember it. It's that against the black background and the white letters with an explanation point. It's genius.
There were a few years there when agents Mulder and Scully from the X-Files were pretty prevalent and seen on billboards, TV, magazines, etc. Were you an X-Files fan? Do you remember hearing The Truth Is Out There?
No, I never was an X-Files fan.
What about Jurassic Park? It's turned into a franchise.
Yeah, again, not a fan of that. Sci-fi is not something that excites me.
Well, it's all about target marketing as well, because when you think about that, one of the things that I talk about on this show is we have to accept that not everyone, heck, not even most people, are going to see a particular message from a medium. So that's what's great when we go through the Sights and Sounds, because just about every guest says, I had one person say, I don't watch Survivor. Another one said, I've never watched South Park. And it makes the point about how important it is to target your messaging through mediums that reach that target audience. And that's what you've done at Deepwell, or you've done your tiers, and you have different messages for each tier and different mediums that you use. So this is a great example. Both the X-Files and Jurassic Park, they are memorable from 1993, but they weren't for everyone. But the most unique one that you and I talked about this week as we were prepping for the show is AT&T's You Will campaign. It was an advertising campaign that had Tom Selleck doing the voiceover, and it talked about things that we will do. It said, you will do this. And it started off saying, by, have you ever shared a book from someone from another country? And then it would say, you will. Let's go through some of the things it predicted, Mark. It predicted the electronic toll booth that we'd drive by and not have to stop and pay the toll. E-books and e-readers like Kindles and Nooks. GPS, which the military had in 1993, but didn't really become common in the consumer market until about 2000. Video conferencing, tablets, ticket kiosks for shows and so forth. On-demand viewing, it predicted, which we have now with Netflix and the binge watching and so forth, and home automation systems and distance learning. That's a whole lot of stuff to predict a good 10 to 15 years before it came into commonplace.
Yeah, it's, I mean, just look at the GPS and what it's done. Just even for business. We use it here at Deepwell. We can tell where all of our units are. We can tell if they're running, if they're not running. It's been a huge game-changing tool for, and I mean, just looking back at that link you sent me yesterday, it's amazing what they were able to foresee.
That link will be on the show notes page. I encourage our audience to check it out. It was a really strong campaign in that it was bold, and by showing predictions using Tom Selleck, who has a memorable voice, and at the time he was still pretty popular and pretty well known, but not known so well that you thought that, oh, this is Tom Selleck talking. You just kind of listened. And then these predictions, I think there are 11 of them that have now become things that we take totally for granted and use every day. In fact, one of them was, they called it an intelligent personal assistant, which is pretty much what Siri is on your iPhone. So it's the AT&T's You Will campaign. So the Sights and Sounds of Marketing was from 1993. And those are the ones that Mark and I talked about, and we liked some, and some we weren't as excited about. So maybe they were BS marketing, or maybe they just weren't quite hitting us as a target market. So, Mark, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about you and what you do?
And through my LinkedIn account, and please reach out. Please join me or follow the company at Deepwell Services on LinkedIn and learn a little more about us.
Mark, thanks for being what I think is a fantastic guest for our audience. I appreciate you spending time with us and our listeners.
Thanks, Dave.
And to the audience, thanks for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Podcast. Visit boldsolutionsnobs.com for show notes, plus additional marketing and messaging resources. Are you signed up for light reading? You'll receive proven strategies every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. To sign up, visit masssolutions.biz/blog. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions without the BS.